Loneliness is one of the heaviest weights the human heart can carry. To walk through life feeling unseen, unheard, and unnoticed is a pain that sinks deeper than words can often describe. We live in a world filled with noise, yet many souls suffer in silence, believing no one understands the burdens they carry. But the truth is this: even when you feel abandoned, even when the night grows long and the shadows stretch over your thoughts, God sees everything. It is not the shallow seeing of a passerby who glances and forgets. It is the kind of seeing that pierces through the surface and beholds the very depths of your soul. When your prayers are whispers too weak to escape your lips, He hears them. When your tears fall onto your pillow where no human eye witnesses, He collects them. When you wonder whether your struggles have any meaning at all, He is weaving them into a purpose greater than your imagination could construct. There is a great paradox in this. We often measure our worth by how many notice us. We think the crowd, the applause, the recognition are signs that we matter. But the eyes of the world are fleeting. They look today and turn away tomorrow. The eyes of God never close. He has counted every breath you've taken, every hair on your head, every secret longing of your heart. If He keeps the stars in their places and the oceans in their boundaries, how much more carefully does He keep watch over you? You may believe your life is too small to be seen. Perhaps you compare yourself to others who shine brighter, speak louder, or seem more significant. But remember, light is most precious in the dark. A single candle may seem unimpressive at midday, but in a midnight room it becomes everything. So too with your life. God does not measure greatness by numbers or by noise. He measures by faith, by love, by the quiet acts of obedience no one else notices. And yes, there are seasons when He allows you to walk seemingly alone, not because He has abandoned you, but because He is teaching you to lean on the reality of His presence instead of the illusion of human applause. Think of it this way: when a teacher is silent during a test, it is not because the teacher has left the classroom. It is because the test itself is meant to strengthen the student. In the same way, God's silence is not His absence. His stillness is not His neglect. His watchful eyes remain fixed on you even in the quietest and loneliest hours. So if you feel unseen, remind yourself, you are seen by the one who matters most. If you feel forgotten, remember, you are engraved on the palms of His hands. If you feel your life holds no meaning, know this: every moment of faithfulness, even the ones no human ever praises, echoes in eternity. You may be alone, but you are never invisible. You may be unrecognized by the world, but you are fully known by God. And to be known by Him is not merely enough. It is everything. God's awareness of you is deeper and more constant than human recognition could ever be. To say that God's awareness of you is deeper and more constant than human recognition could ever be is to step into the mystery of divine love, a love that does not waver, does not forget, and does not grow weary. Human recognition is fickle. One day you may be celebrated, another day ignored, and sometimes betrayed by those who once praised you. The applause of people can be intoxicating, but it fades quickly, leaving the heart empty, craving again the fragile approval of others. God's gaze, however, is not like the gaze of men and women. It does not skim the surface or depend on outward appearances. It does not judge you by status, wealth, or achievements. His awareness reaches into the depths of who you are, beyond masks and performances, beyond the layers you hide even from yourself. He sees the trembling hopes you dare not voice, the quiet battles you fight alone, the sacrifices you make that no one else ever acknowledges. Consider how often people misunderstand you. Words you say are twisted, motives you hold are questioned, and sometimes the best of intentions are overlooked. But God never misunderstands. His seeing is complete, and his knowing is without error. He perceives every detail of your journey, not as a distant observer, but as one who loves you more fully than you can comprehend. Imagine standing under the vast sky at night, stars spread in infinite patterns, galaxies beyond measure, and still, in that endless expanse, he has not lost sight of you. His attention does not scatter like human attention. His awareness is constant, unwavering, a fixed light that never dims. It is easy to believe we are invisible when others fail to notice. Yet invisibility to people is not invisibility to God. The very moments when you feel most overlooked are often the moments when his watchfulness is nearest. Scripture reminds us that not even a sparrow falls to the ground without his notice. How much more, then, does he see you, a soul crafted in his image, loved with everlasting love? Even your sighs are prayers that reach his ears, and every tear that falls in secret is stored as precious treasure before him. There is not a moment of your life that escapes his care. Human recognition often rests upon performance. Do well, and you are applauded. Fail, and you are forgotten. But God's awareness is not earned. It is not conditional. It is rooted in his nature, which is unchanging and steadfast. Long before you drew your first breath, he knew you. Long before you accomplished anything of value in the eyes of the world, you were already infinitely valuable in his sight. His awareness is not distracted by the noise of the world, nor is it divided among billions of souls. For him, seeing you is not diluted by seeing all. He beholds each as if there were only one. That is the mystery of infinite love, that he can give complete attention to every child as though each were his only one. When you walk through seasons of suffering, it may feel as though you are forgotten. Pain has a way of convincing us that we are alone, but the truth is that his awareness intensifies in the furnace of trial. He does not look away from your affliction. He watches with compassion, with purpose, with the intention of weaving even sorrow into glory. There is not a night so dark that his eyes cannot see you, nor a valley so deep that his presence cannot reach you. You are never beyond the circle of his vision. Even in the smallest details of your life, he is aware. When you extend kindness to another without thanks, he sees. When you resist temptation in the quiet of your heart, he sees. When you labor faithfully, unseen and unrecognized, he sees. These are not wasted moments, for they are witnessed by the one whose recognition matters most. In eternity, it will not be the applause of crowds that echoes, but the voice of God saying, "I saw you." This truth ought to free you from the tyranny of living for human approval. If you live for the recognition of others, you will constantly bend yourself into shapes to please them, and you will never rest. But if you anchor yourself in God's awareness, you can live with quiet confidence, knowing that you are fully known and fully loved. His constant gaze is not the gaze of a critic waiting for failure, but of a father delighting in his child, guiding, correcting, and cherishing. You are not overlooked. You are not forgotten. You are not unseen. Every moment of your existence is bathed in the light of his perfect awareness. Your hidden faithfulness has eternal significance, even when unnoticed by others. Your hidden faithfulness has eternal significance, even when unnoticed by others. There is something profoundly sacred about the acts of obedience, love, and sacrifice that no one else ever sees. The world is trained to applaud what is visible, what makes noise, what can be measured and broadcasted. But the kingdom of God moves quietly, often in secret places, where the only audience is God himself. When you forgive someone who will never apologize, when you give generously without recognition, when you pray for another soul in silence without them ever knowing. Those are the moments that shape eternity. They may appear small and forgotten in the records of men, but they are recorded in heaven with unshakable permanence. The heart longs for acknowledgement, and it is natural to desire that someone notices the efforts you make. Yet God designed the deepest parts of your faith to grow in the soil of hiddenness. A seed does its most important work beneath the surface where no eye can see. Roots are formed in darkness, unseen by the world, and yet they are the very thing that allows the tree to stand tall in the storm. In the same way, your hidden faithfulness builds roots in your soul that cannot be shaken by the winds of adversity. The applause of people is like shallow soil. It may sprout quickly, but it cannot sustain lasting fruit. What is done in secret with God, however, is nurtured by eternal soil, and it produces fruit that will endure forever. Every time you choose to obey God in the secret places of your heart, you are aligning yourself with the eternal purposes of heaven. The world might look past you, but heaven does not. The angels themselves marvel at the faithfulness of a heart that continues to trust when no one else notices. It is not the grand gestures that shape eternity most, but the consistent, quiet choices of faith that accumulate like drops of water, carving through stone. A gentle word spoken in kindness, a moment of restraint when anger burns, a whispered prayer in the dark hours of night. All of these are threads woven into the eternal story God is writing through you. Consider how easily people overlook what is hidden. If you perform a great deed in public, the world may applaud, but the applause will fade and be forgotten. Yet when you act in hidden faithfulness, you are storing treasures in a place where moth and rust cannot destroy. The eternal significance of your faithfulness does not depend on the size of the act, but on the heart behind it. A widow giving 2 coins in secret is of greater eternal weight than the wealthy giving in public for recognition. A child offering a small prayer of trust is of more enduring value than the proud speech of kings. Eternity values differently than time, and heaven's record book is not written in the ink of human applause, but in the ink of divine recognition. Hidden faithfulness is also a mirror of God's own nature. Much of his work in your life happens unseen. You do not see the countless ways he protects you daily, the doors he opens, the battles he fights on your behalf in the unseen realms. If he is faithful in hidden ways, then when you reflect that same hidden faithfulness, you mirror his character back into the world. You walk in step with the eternal rhythm of his love, and in doing so, you testify of his presence even without words. It may sometimes feel as though hidden acts are wasted, but nothing done in the name of God is ever wasted. The quiet prayer you prayed years ago, the act of kindness you thought was forgotten, the choice of integrity you made when no one was watching, all of these ripple through eternity in ways you cannot now comprehend. God has designed it so that even the smallest cup of water given in his name holds eternal weight. When you stand before him, it will not be the worldly trophies or accomplishments that matter most, but the hidden moments of faithfulness that were done simply because you loved him. Hidden faithfulness is also a shield against pride. If everything you did was applauded by people, your heart would easily be ensnared by vanity. But when you walk faithfully in hiddenness, you are reminded that your reward is not here but with God. It keeps your motives pure, your heart aligned, and your focus fixed on the eternal rather than the temporary. What others may not see, he sees, and his approval outweighs every voice of man. The eternal significance of your hidden faithfulness is this: you are participating in a kingdom that cannot be shaken. You are building foundations that storms cannot destroy, investing in treasures that cannot be stolen. aligning your life with purposes that stretch beyond time. When others forget, God remembers. When others ignore, God records. When others overlook, God honors. Seasons of silence are not abandonment, but divine training in trust and unseen presence. Seasons of silence are not abandonment, but divine training in trust and unseen presence. There are moments in life when prayers seem to echo back unanswered, when the heavens feel closed and the weight of loneliness presses heavily on the heart. In those seasons, it is tempting to believe that God has turned away, that his absence is proof of neglect. Yet silence is not the language of abandonment. Silence is the classroom where trust is taught and faith is refined. Just as a teacher does not hover over the student during an exam, but allows the student to demonstrate what has been learned, so God sometimes allows his children to walk through silence, not to punish them, but to strengthen them. Silence tests the heart in ways that words never could. It draws out the true motives of faith. If we only love God when he speaks constantly, then our faith is shallow, dependent on feelings rather than reality. But when we continue to trust him even when he is quiet, our faith grows roots that reach deeper into eternity. Silence strips away the illusions of comfort and forces the soul to decide whether it will cling to God for who he is or for what he gives. In the hiddenness of his quietness, we are invited to believe that he is near, even when our senses tell us otherwise. The human heart craves constant reassurance. We want to see signs, to hear confirmation, to feel tangible evidence that God is present. Yet God knows that such constant affirmation would leave us weak, unable to stand when the storms of life come. Like a parent teaching a child to walk, there are moments when he loosens his grip, not to let us fall, but to teach us balance, strength, and confidence in his unseen nearness. The silence of God is often the training ground where endurance is born, where trust becomes more than words, where the soul discovers that faith is not built on what can be seen or felt, but on the unchanging character of the one who promised never to leave nor forsake us. In these seasons, every small act of faith takes on immeasurable value. To pray when you feel unheard is an act of courage. To worship when the heavens feel silent is an act of profound trust. To continue walking in obedience when you do not feel his presence is a declaration that your faith is anchored in truth rather than emotion. These hidden acts during silent seasons are not wasted. They are like seeds planted deep in the soil, invisible for a time, but destined to bear fruit. The silence is not evidence of barrenness but of preparation. Beneath the surface, unseen growth is taking place. History is filled with men and women who walked through the silence of God and emerged stronger, purer, and more steadfast. Their testimonies remind us that silence is not emptiness, but an invitation to discover the God who works in hidden ways. The silence teaches patience, and patience shapes character. It loosens our grip on the need for control and teaches us to rest in the sovereignty of the one who sees beyond the moment. When God is silent, he is not absent. His silence often means he is doing work too deep for our eyes to yet perceive. There is also a sacred intimacy found in silence. When words are stripped away, when signs and feelings are absent, what remains is the simple, unshakable reality of his presence. It is often in these quiet seasons that we discover the depth of his companionship. A friend who only remains when there is noise and excitement is not a true friend, but a friend who stays in silence, who does not need to fill the emptiness with chatter, is one who truly abides. God abides in silence. He sits with you in the shadows, and though you may not hear him, he is there, closer than your very breath. The training of silence also teaches us to listen differently. When the familiar ways of sensing His presence grow quiet, we are pushed to discover Him in new ways. We begin to see His hand in the ordinary, His whispers in creation, His fingerprints in the unfolding of daily life. Silence enlarges the soul's capacity to notice, to perceive, to treasure the subtle ways He speaks beyond words. It refines our spiritual senses and heightens our awareness of His mystery. Above all, silence is a call to deeper trust. Trust that His promises are true even when feelings waver. Trust that His love is steadfast even when circumstances are harsh. Trust that His presence is unbroken even when unseen. Trust is not proven in moments of clarity, but in moments of uncertainty. Just as gold is purified by fire, faith is purified by silence. The flames of absence burn away the dross of shallow belief and leave behind a faith that cannot be shaken.